How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to Killmark Collectors. Today, I got something special for you because we just finished a massive battle with the Fireflies Alliance up in Branch, and we are going to dive into the after-action report to see what you can learn for your next battle as well. So let's undock and get started. So if you saw the last video that was an after-action report where we were fighting an Eve Echo, we are now taking the offensive in this war against the Fireflies. Earlier this week, we put a couple of different stations into hold timers, and so we actually had to get up at 3 a.m. Here in the Mountain Time Zone to be able to have this battle. There was a lot of planning that went into this. There were massive numbers on both sides, and it really was a fun fight. I'm really looking forward to sharing this with y'all. A couple of things to note before we jump in. One is that a couple of y'all in the comments on the last video commented that I was hiding the local numbers. It was not my intent. It's not my intent here either. That being said, I am still learning OBS Studio, and so I might have made a boo-boo in a couple of places, and there aren't local numbers visible. I did try to keep up a couple of different tabs so that you can see that throughout, but hopefully you'll get the general idea. The other thing that I want to say is that this, again, is going to be very much like the last one where I am editing and speeding up the footage so that it's, at a reasonable time. If you want to see the full video of the battles, including our Discord comms, we've got another content creator who's actually been a fantastic resource for me, Randy over at RTS Mobile Gaming. I'll put a link to his videos up here or wherever it is. Check those out. You can hear our Discord comms and really get a sense of the full battle. Let's dive into what the actual battle and engagement looked like. This battle really took place in 3 separate engagements. The first part of this engagement was when we actually broke into the system that had the Citadel in it. After that, we did engage on the station itself, and then finally some of the last kind of final stand and the cleanup after the fact. I'm gonna link the timestamps down below as well, so if you are flipping back and forth between this video and one that Randy's doing, you'll be able to come back to where you were and pick up so that you're not trying to scroll on your own. At the start of this engagement, I did take a couple of screenshots, and it looks like the Fireflies had about 16 to 20 battleships compared to our 9. They had 50 to 70 battle cruisers compared to our 67, and then they had 40 to 60 cruisers compared to our 35 to 40-ish. Now, I don't know how many scepters they had. I know that we had about 10 to 12 just from the Silent Alliance, or we were also supported in this engagement by some of our gen-fed allies. They sent a group of scepters up. They really did a phenomenal job throughout this entire engagement, so we were very lucky to have them with us. With all of that being said, we did have approximately 140 to 180 enemy ships against our 120 to 130 plus our allies from GenFed. So it really was a pretty even fight. Obviously, when we start talking about the actual objective of both sides, the Fireflies were trying to protect their station. We were trying to kill it. Pretty straightforward. So starting with the first engagement here, the actual getting into the system. And what the Fireflies did is they were actually in the system with the Citadel, so KV-TAC, and they had set up a gate camp with 2 different bubbles set up. One with a large brawler fleet, and then one with a sniper fleet that was probably about 70 kilometers off the gate. As the defender, they have the advantage of being able to get there and set up. We could have just forced our way in, but we were actually able to do a little bit of trickery, and this absolutely phenomenal job by our FC Niker. What he did is when we were coming up here, we were actually coming up from the south, and we had landed in QCWA. In QCWA, as we were ready to jump into KV-8SN, which is where the Citadel was, we actually realized that the enemy was gate camping here on the QCW gate in KV-8SN. Again, if we had jumped in right away, that would have been, we probably could have broken the gate camp, but it would have been really painful. We actually went all the way up to 52G, and then we jumped in system, we spiked local, and what happened was the gate camp and everybody that was here, not everybody, but a large portion of the ships that were there, including a lot of the big brawly battleships, said, oh crap, we've got an enemy coming in the back door. So they actually switched and they moved their gate camp up here onto the 82G gate. Now, once they did that, we immediately reapproached the gate. We jumped back into QCWA and then jumped immediately into KV-8SN. Now, unfortunately, despite my extolling of BlueStacks as a very stable platform, I actually disconnected during this jump here. And so by the time I jumped in, a lot of the big ships were already dead. But when we got there, there was another really important command that was given, and that was to reapproach the gate and actually come back so that we could all get in the bubble and almost split the DPS of the sniper fleet versus the brawler fleet. What basically happened is the bubble came up on top of the gate, the primary anchor went to 0, and then we gave the command to everybody crash back to the gate. This helped us keep the brawly ships that were a little bit closer, maybe inside of that bubble. They were applying damage to the underlying ships while the snipers were hitting the bubble, and so we were able to split that DPS, absorb it a little bit better, and take out the enemy in stages. Now, because we had done this little misdirection, we also started seeing some of these other ships coming back into the fight, and we were able to pick them off piecemeal, and again, just kind of break up that camp a little bit, make it a little bit more digestible, if you will, for our fleet. We really ended up with a couple of different bubbles. It devolved a little bit into kind of your standard sniper tactics. At this point, if you want to see the entire engagement, check out Randy's channel up above. You can hear our voice comms, you can see the entire fight. The second phase of this engagement was on the station itself. And so when we warped into, I think, about 70 kilometers, and the enemy was basically on the undock. They'd already gotten their bubble up. We got our bubble up quick. We had our gen-fed scepters with us, and we started, kind of, again, your typical blob warfare. Snipers are picking off targets, brawlers are hitting drones, and ultimately we were able to, slowly start whittling the enemy down. Now, as the battle progressed, the gen-fed scepters were just running around, causing havoc, while our bigger bubble was moving into position. We got a little bit closer. I think we ended up around 30 kilometers away from the station at our closest point, and then pulled back, and were able to get into the 40 to 50 kilometer range, letting the ships get the DPS, and really being able to get the station down. One thing that was kind of interesting about this fight is that we're doing this, the enemy actually was able to get a couple of probes and small frigates close enough to the bubble that they probably could have warped on if they'd been a little bit further away from the station. The way that our fleet was set up, we were probably about half brawler, half sniper, and so if the enemy being in the station and having all of their fits there, if they had decided to go brawler, they burned up far enough away that when that cloaky ship got close, they warped on top and they started brawling. Again, it may have been enough to stop us and to break our fleet, I don't know, but it was an interesting decision for them to try to get a warp in but not be far enough away to actually utilize it. About 75%, the enemy fleet did warp off. They were hanging out in the sun. They had about 70 ships, we think. I think there were a couple of eyes on them. So they had about 70 ships. They were able to kind of regroup a little bit. That did leave us time to start really taking this structure down. We're on to the enemy's final stand. At this point, the station was only maybe 10 to 15% of health when the enemy warped back on. What was interesting here is that when they did warp, they were about 70 to 100 kilometers away from us. And so I don't know if they just misaligned their jump or what happened, but they were really too far away to make a big difference. Like I said earlier, I think if they had gone brawly fit and they had tried to jump into us, get on top, really start creating some havoc with our Logi and some of those others, they may have had a little bit more luck. But as it stood, I think it was just a little too late. Once the station went down, the interesting thing is that the Fireflies did actually stick around for a good bit. I would have expected them to warp off, once the objective is lost. They still had a lot of very expensive ships on the field, including a Macarial and a Nightmare, both of which we were able to catch and kill by sending our Scepters up. They jumped on top of them, and then the rest of the fleet was able to get into range and start brawling and take some of those big ships down very, very quickly. I think in the last few minutes, we did end up with some great kills. I'm going to let you watch again and be on the lookout for my favorite part of this entire battle, where our FC Niker gives us a little bit of advice on what type of food we should be eating and when we should eat it.
After this Dominix is the next Dominix. After this Dominix goes down, the next Dominix, everybody. We're going to keep the Nightmare for last.
I've got the Nightmare tackled.
We don't want to eat our cake before the breakfast.
Dommy down. Dommy down.
Alright guys, so that's it for this battle. This battle has been several days in the making. It was a huge group effort. We had some awesome roams with FCs earlier in the week. We had some fantastic decision making by our FCs during the fight, and ultimately we were able to get the objective. To the Fireflies, if any of y'all are watching this, fantastic fight. This was a ton of fun, worth getting up early for. I know that you guys are probably a little disappointed with the outcome, but you should be proud of yourselves. You fought really hard, and it was not an easy fight for us. So great job. Thanks to everybody who made this happen on both our side and on the Firefly side. We really appreciate you guys, coming out and putting up a good fight. This was a ton of fun. As I mentioned earlier, if you haven't already, I highly recommend going and checking out Randy's channel. He's got pretty much a full recording of the fight, and then also of the Discord comms and all of that, so you can really get a good sense of what it was like, some of the commands that were given, and it was really just a great opportunity for you to kind of get some experience and just kind of see how these things work. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give me a little like and hit subscribe if you haven't already. If you're interested in doing this type of combat, be sure to head down to the Discord link below and apply to join us in the Pandemic Corporation. We're always looking for new pilots. We love having big fights like this, and it's just a ton of fun all around. Thank you all for joining. I really appreciate your time. I'm going to go take a nap now. Have a great weekend. If you're getting snowed on right now like we are, stay inside, stay warm, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time. Fly safe.